The following is a presentation of William Patterson University Television, WPTV.
Up next, please welcome to the stage Jessica Muir.
Hi, everyone. So, I recently found out that my town's Board of Education is against teaching critical race theory in public schools. Apparently, white people don't think that their kids need to learn a nuanced view of race in America. And I would just like to say that I went to school with your kids, and they need to be taught critical race theory. I played this game for 8 years. I assimilated to make your kids more comfortable with me. I straightened my hair. I listened to Eminem. I gave everybody an N-word pass. At some point, it felt like the only reason people wanted to talk to me, I was exchanging N-word passes for friendship. But I kind of see where they're coming from, because once again, I went to school with your kids. And they would fail a history course targeted toward critical race theory. It would be a bloodbath. I was once in a history class with a kid that argued with our teacher mid-class about the reality of history. We were talking about Native Americans, and she was explaining the technology that they would use to build their houses and grow their crops and make their clothing. And this kid thought, no, Native Americans aren't smart enough to create technology. And so he pipes in and he's like, how do we know Native Americans actually made these things? Well, Tyler, through research, analysis of ancient artifacts, and just a touch of common sense, really. And I know you don't know much about those things, but I would tend to trust the people that dedicated their lives to studying history. You know, that sounds reasonable, don't you think? He didn't think that. Because he kept fighting with the teacher, and he goes, well, you weren't there. You have just as much information as I do. No. She has all of the information. She studied the information. She has a degree in the information, and you have a D in the class. You're up here fighting with a teacher with all of the confidence that your white boy ego can muster, that history is not real. And I can only imagine that this kid is swimming in QAnon rhetoric by now, because if that's your logical thought progression at age 16, you fought a good fight, Mrs. J, but there was no saving him. He was too far gone. But yeah, people are not thrilled that our district would even consider teaching critical race theory. And people are going, well, if they want to teach my kid critical race theory, then I'm going to pull them out of school and teach them history myself. And as much as I hate to say that, that is an effective threat. The idea of Martha down the street teaching her kids history the right way terrifies me more than anything else. It's comments like that make me want to go, hang on. We don't need to be too hasty, maybe we can figure something out, compromise. I'm a pro at negotiating with racists. The one that gets me, though, is, we can't teach my kid critical race theory because it'll make them feel bad. Kathy, let me paint you a picture. You are the only black kid in your social studies class, and the teacher goes, all right, kids, today we're going to talk about Martin Luther King. And the whole class just kind of looks at you like, that's your dad. That's like your people's God, huh? Maybe part of teaching CRT should be giving white kids that kind of experience, but it wouldn't even translate right, because it would be one black kid in front of like 20 white kids trying to make them all feel uncomfortable. Like the teacher goes, okay, class, today we're going to talk about Johnny Appleseed. And I'm like, oh, apple pickers. I bet you have an apple tree in your backyard, don't you? I bet you pick an apple and you pray to Daddy Appleseed and you thank him for liberating your people. The best slur that I can come up with for white people is apple pickers. So maybe you see the issue here. But I read an article about the presentation that they gave the parents at the Board of Education about what curriculum teaching critical race theory would entail, and a lot of the parents complained that they couldn't understand some of the terminology like implicit bias and systemic racism and white privilege. And I understand that as like a young and up-and-coming Black person, I have a vested interest in understanding terms like this. They affect me on a daily basis, and older white people maybe don't know that, but I don't know, in most of these words there's context clues. Like, you're having trouble grasping the term white privilege. You know the white part, you know what that means. So you must be getting tripped up at privilege. Some of these people are products of the same school system they're fighting right now, and they can't even recognize how it's failed them. One woman here said, quoted, before this extreme agenda goes through, I demand you explain what some of these terms mean. Google is free, Sandy. You can't argue that an agenda is extremist and dangerous and then admit you don't even know what the agenda is. And especially not when you can look it up with the phone that's in your hand. Did you know that you could do that with it? Did you know that you can Google the definitions of words? Did you know that it's not just there so you can retweet anti-vax propaganda? You can find real information with it too. But no, I guess I kind of see what they're saying. Critical race theory is far too advanced for this town. We're going to need to teach a prereq to that course called Common Sense. Maybe like a critical thinking class. Or better yet, we could just have a class called How Not to Become Your Racist Parents. Thank you. Thank you all so much for coming to Common Hour Comedy Hour. Are we going to have everyone come up and bow? Come on up. One last hand for our comedians.